A German shepherd guided a U.S. Marine toward a broken shed where the truth was breathing quietly. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Dawn drifts slowly over the pine ridges of northern Montana, the kind of morning that feels held together by silence and cold breath. Staff Sergeant Noah Whitmore stands at the edge of an old service road, hands tucked into the pockets of his worn field jacket, his gaze fixed on the soft haze lifting from the forest floor. He isn't here for anything special, at least that's what he tells himself. Just a quiet walk, a quiet mind, a quiet hour before the world wakes up. But some mornings refuse to stay quiet. A faint crunch breaks the stillness, so soft it blends with the dew settling on the needles. Noah lifts his head. A German shepherd steps out from between the trees, lean, damp around the paws, coat brushed by frost. She holds herself with a strange, steady calm. No collar. No hesitation. Only intention, as if she has been waiting for him and no one else. Her amber eyes lock onto his, unwavering. Not pleading. Not frightened. Certain. Noah feels something shift inside his chest, a gentle pull he can't name. Hey, girl, he murmurs, voice low, more breath than sound. She doesn't come closer. Instead, she turns her head toward the tree line, takes 3 steps, then looks back at him, inviting, almost commanding in the quietest way. Noah frowns softly. He doesn't believe in signs. He barely believes in luck. But the way she stands there, half in shadow, half in light, feels like a message carved into the morning itself. She turns again, trotting deeper into the woods. Not fast. Just far enough that he must choose to follow. Noah exhales, a thin cloud in the cold air, and steps forward. Something about her reminds him of missions long gone, where instinct mattered more than orders, and where silence spoke louder than any. Briefing. The forest thickens around them. The scent of damp earth rises. A breeze moves through the branches like a whispered warning. Yet the shepherd never looks unsure. Every few yards she pauses, glances back, checks that he's still behind her. As if his presence matters. As if what waits ahead is meant for him alone. Noah feels it before he sees it, a faint disturbance in the air, a hush threaded with warmth, like a hidden breath rising from the ground. Then the shape emerges through the trees, a broken shed, leaning under its own weight, boards warped, roof sagging, the doorway gaping like an exhale. Ember, though he doesn't know her name yet, steps to the threshold, ears forward, body still. Noah slows, heartbeat tapping gently against his ribs. He doesn't know what he's walking toward. Only that the dog brought him here with purpose. And whatever truth waits inside, it's alive. Breathing quietly. Waiting, ****, Noah stands just outside the sagging doorway, the cool air shifting around him as if the shed itself is releasing a long-held breath. Ember remains stone still at the threshold, her tail low, her ears gently angled forward, not in fear but in a focused patience that feels almost human. Noah kneels beside her, resting one gloved hand lightly on her shoulder, surprised by the warmth humming beneath her fur. She leans into the touch for a quiet second, then looks up at him with those amber eyes that seem to say, listen. He draws in a slow breath. The forest behind them whispers with soft movement, pine needles brushing against one another like distant chimes. The scent here is different from the trail, layered with old dust, faint hay, and something warm that does not belong in the morning chill. Noah steps closer, boots pressing gently into the soft earth, and the warped wooden boards creak under the shift of weight. Ember follows, matching his pace with deliberate calm. A thin beam of light slips through the cracked roof, illuminating suspended dust like drifting pollen. Noah pauses, letting his eyes adjust. The shed is small, barely large enough to store tools, yet the air feels strangely deeper, as if holding more than its size suggests. Ember moves ahead, her nose brushing the ground, tracing an invisible thread only she can sense. Each time she pauses, she glances back at Noah, as if tethering him to the moment. He notices details slowly, the way he was trained to do. An overturned bucket near the back wall. A wool blanket folded but stained by time. A shallow indentation in the hay where something, or someone, had rested recently. His heartbeat steadies into a quiet rhythm. He whispers, "Is someone here, girl?" The question floats in the air, unanswered. Ember lifts her head. Her ears catch a sound Noah cannot yet hear. She steps toward the back corner where the boards separate slightly, leaving a narrow opening. There is a softness there, a muted sound, like fabric shifting or a breath settling. Noah leans closer, careful not to disturb the fragile quiet. The warmth in the air seems stronger now, subtle but undeniable, the kind of warmth that carries life. He brushes his hand across the wooden frame. The texture is rough, aged, yet there is something tender about this place, as if it has been holding a secret gently. Ember circles once, then lies down beside the opening, her nose pointed toward the dimness. She lets out a quiet sound, not a bark, not a whine, something softer, like reassurance offered to whatever rests beyond. Noah feels the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders, not heavy, but profound. He kneels again, lowering himself to Ember's height. The light shifts through the roof above them, dust swirling like soft signals. He can hear it now, faint and rhythmic. A breath. Not loud, not struggling, simply present. Quiet, steady, and impossibly fragile. He closes his eyes for a heartbeat, letting the stillness speak. Something, or someone, is alive in the shadows. And that truth, breathing softly behind a wall of worn boards, has waited for him. Or perhaps it has waited for her. Ember nudges his hand gently, as if granting him permission to uncover what lies beyond. Noah steadies his breath as he leans closer to the narrow opening in the wooden boards, letting the quiet guide him instead of rushing it. Ember stays pressed against his side, her warmth grounding him in the cool morning air. She tilts her head, listening with an instinct older than memory itself, and Noah feels her calm settle into his own ribs. He places his palm gently against the edge of the warped wood. It flexes slightly, softened by years of weather and time. He does not force it. He simply lets it ease open enough for the light to slip through, thin and golden. The beam falls across a small shape curled into the hay, so still at first that Noah wonders if his senses have betrayed him. But then it moves, a soft shift, a gentle rise of breath. A young puppy, no more than a few weeks old, wrapped partly in an old flannel cloth, its coat pale with dust but warm beneath the faint sunlight. The little chest lifts and falls with a fragile determination that tugs at something deep inside Noah. Ember inches forward, her movement slow and careful, offering a soft sound that carries comfort rather than alarm. The puppy responds with a tiny twitch of its ears, sensing presence, sensing safety. Noah lowers himself onto one knee, feeling the cool earth seep through the fabric of his pants. He reaches a hand forward, not to take, but to introduce. His fingers hover just above the flannel, letting the warmth rising from the small body touch his skin first. "Hey there," he murmurs, voice steady and gentle, shaped by a tenderness he rarely lets the world see. "You are not alone anymore." The puppy shifts again, its tiny nose brushing the edge of the cloth. It releases a faint sound, barely more than a sigh, but full of life, full of hope that has refused to abandon it. Noah looks at Ember. She holds his gaze for a long moment, her eyes soft, reflecting something like relief. As if this is what she brought him here to find. As if she trusts him to carry what she cannot. He glances around the interior of the shed once more, searching for any sign of who placed the puppy here, who covered it with the flannel, who hoped the shelter would be enough. There is no note, no collar, no footprints in the dust. Only the quiet and the breath that continues in small, steady waves. Noah slips both hands beneath the tiny bundle, lifting it with the slow reverence of someone handling something sacred. The puppy nestles into the warmth of his palms, instinctively recognizing kindness. Ember rises, her posture alert but peaceful, ready to guide him again if the path demands it. Noah steps back into the daylight, holding the fragile life close to his chest, feeling its faint heartbeat echo against his own. For a moment, the forest holds its breath with them. The truth he found today is not loud, not dramatic, not carved in thunder. It is small, fragile, breathing softly against his jacket. And sometimes, he realizes, the quietest truths are the ones that change the course of a life. Noah holds the tiny puppy close as he steps out into the pale morning light, the chill brushing against his face while the warmth in his hands reminds him that the forest is not as empty as it once seemed. Ember walks beside him, her stride steady and protective, matching every shift of his pace as if she understands that what he carries needs more than strength. It needs gentleness. The trail back toward the service road feels different now, quieter in a way that suggests the trees are listening. Pine needles shimmer with dew, catching the first hints of sunrise as if they are offering their own blessing. Noah adjusts the flannel around the puppy to keep the warmth close, and he notices the faint scent of cedar lingering in the cloth, a scent that does not belong to the shed. It hints at a home, or at least the memory of one. Ember lifts her nose to the air, catching the same trace. She glances at Noah with a quiet knowing. He takes a slow breath, letting the cool air steady his thoughts. Questions press at the edge of his mind, but none feel as important as the fragile heartbeat resting against his chest. "You held on," he whispers to the puppy, almost in awe. "Through the cold. Through the night. Someone must have wanted you to survive." Ember's ears turn toward him, as if she understands the weight of that truth. The path narrows briefly where the branches lean low. Noah bows his head to pass under them, careful not to disturb the small life he carries. Ember slips through the brush with effortless grace, guiding him around roots and soft ground. She pauses once, nose to the earth, then moves on as if confirming that there is no threat, only time working gently around them. When they finally reach the edge of the clearing, Noah notices something he missed earlier. A faint set of impressions in the soft soil, lighter than footprints, wider than paw marks. Perhaps from a small crate or a wooden box dragged along the ground. The impressions lead toward the shed but fade before reaching the tree line. Whoever left the puppy there had not stayed long. Noah crouches carefully, studying the marks without lowering the puppy too far from his body. Ember watches him, her head tilted slightly, her breath soft and even. He brushes his fingers across the shallow groove in the soil. It tells him nothing certain, only that the decision to leave the puppy had been quick, maybe desperate. He rises again, and Ember steps closer, her shoulder brushing his leg in a silent reassurance. The sky brightens slowly behind the ridge, casting a soft gold along the tops of the pines. Noah turns toward the distant outline of the town. The veterinary clinic is a few miles away, but he knows the route well enough. Ember remains at his side, ready to follow him wherever the next path leads. As Noah begins walking, he presses the puppy gently against his chest to shield it from the cool breeze. The heartbeat remains steady, small but sure, a quiet reminder that life persists even in the gentlest rhythms. Ember trots just ahead, clearing the path with each step, glancing back to ensure he is still with her. The morning grows warmer, and the forest seems to exhale around them. Noah feels something shift inside him, subtle yet unmistakable, as if the silent truth Ember led him to has begun to settle in his own heart. A truth that does not shout, does not demand, does not break. It simply breathes, softly and bravely, trusting him to carry it forward. The road curves gently through the morning haze as Noah makes his way toward town, the puppy bundled securely against his chest, its tiny breaths warming the inside of his jacket. Ember keeps a steady pace just ahead, her paws brushing through the frost-tipped grass with a confidence that tells Noah she has walked this land many times before. Every few steps she glances back, checking on him, checking on the fragile life he carries, checking on the quiet truth she unearthed in the shadows. The sun rises slowly over the ridge, spreading a soft gold across the valley. Thin mist lifts from the ground like a veil being drawn back, revealing the stillness of early morning farms. Wooden fences cast long, gentle lines across the dirt road, and a distant weathered barn glows faintly under the new light. Noah feels the weight of the puppy settle deeper into his arms, not heavy, but grounding. The faint heartbeat against his chest steadies his own breathing. The world seems to slow to the puppy's quiet rhythm, each inhale and exhale carrying more meaning than words could shape. As they approach the crossroads leading into town, a small truck pulls to the side of the road. The engine hum fades as an older man steps out. Evan Rhodes, with his weather-lined face and soft gray beard, lifts a hand in greeting. He is a familiar figure to anyone living within several miles of this part of Montana, known for his modest farm and his gentle way with animals. His eyes drift to the bundle in Noah's arms, then to Ember standing proudly beside him. "Morning, Noah," Evan says, voice warm though touched with concern. "Looks like you found yourself something important." Noah nods, adjusting the flannel so the puppy's face is shielded from the breeze. "She led me to him," he says, motioning toward Ember. "Found him tucked inside an old shed up the ridge." Evan studies Ember with a quiet respect. "Dogs know things long before we do," he murmurs. "Sometimes they hear the world whispering." Ember steps forward, sniffing the cuff of Evan's jeans before sitting neatly at Noah's side again. Her calm assurance seems to quiet the air around them. Evan looks at the puppy, noticing the way its small body rises and falls in steady waves. "You should take him to Dr. Lila Carter," he suggests. "She is already at the clinic most mornings. She will know how to help." Noah agrees with a soft nod. He feels the truth in the old man's words. That is where we are heading now. Evan gives Noah's shoulder a gentle pat before climbing back into his truck. "Whatever brought that little one into your hands," he says through the open window, "it was meant for someone who would listen." The truck rolls away, leaving the faint scent of dust and warm engine oil in the air. Noah resumes walking, and Ember moves alongside him once more, her steps synchronized with the steady rhythm of his own. The closer they get to town, the more Noah feels a quiet shift within him, subtle but unmistakable, as if the morning is guiding him toward something more than a simple rescue. The puppy stirs faintly, its tiny head brushing against the inside of the jacket. Noah presses a careful hand over the bundle, offering warmth, offering presence. Ember lifts her head toward the soft clearing sky, as if sensing that the next turn in their path is waiting just beyond the quiet. Together, the three of them continue toward the small clinic near the center of town, carried forward by hope that speaks not in words, but in gentle breaths and loyal steps. The veterinary clinic comes into view just as the morning light softens into a gentle warmth, settling over the small town like a quiet promise. The white wooden building sits at the end of a gravel drive, its porch lined with hanging plants that sway softly in the breeze. Noah feels the puppy stir again inside his jacket, a faint movement that sends a ripple of hope through him. Ember trots forward, her posture alert but calm, as if she already trusts the ground they are approaching. The old wooden sign above the door reads Carter Veterinary Care, the paint slightly faded by the sun but still carrying a sense of welcome. Noah steps onto the porch, each board giving a soft creak under his weight. As he lifts his hand to knock, the door opens before he can touch it. Dr. Lila Carter stands framed in the doorway, her brown hair pulled back in a loose braid and a pair of reading glasses hanging by a thin cord against her chest. She looks surprised at first, but her expression quickly shifts to concern when she notices the bundle Noah holds. "Come inside," she says, her voice gentle but anchored by years of experience. "Whatever you have there, let me take a look." Noah steps in, and Ember follows closely, sitting near the door with quiet attentiveness. The clinic smells faintly of cedar shavings and warm soap, a comforting mix that eases the tension in Noah's shoulders. Lila leads him to a small examination room lit by soft overhead lamps. A warm blanket rests on the table, ready as if she knew someone fragile was coming. Noah unwraps the flannel slowly, revealing the tiny puppy nestled within. Lila's eyes soften immediately. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispers, touching the pup with a careful fingertip. "You held on longer than many would have." She lifts the puppy gently, noting the steady though faint breathing. He is dehydrated, but not dangerously so. He is cold, but responsive. Someone cared enough to wrap him, but not enough to stay. Ember watches from the doorway, her ears tilted forward, her gaze following every movement Lila makes. Noah notices and feels a quiet tightening in his chest. He knows Ember brought him to that shed for a reason. He was alone, Noah says softly. Ember found him. Or maybe he found her. Hard to tell. Lila gives Ember a thoughtful look. Dogs like her see things we overlook. They feel things we forget to feel. She warms a small bottle and holds it to the puppy's mouth. The tiny creature latches on with a strength that surprises all three of them. Lila smiles, a gentle curve full of relief. This little one has a will to live. That is clear. Noah stands back, watching the scene unfold with a strange sense of gratitude. The room feels warmer now, not because of the lamps, but because of the fragile life beginning to trust the world again. Ember shifts slightly, letting out a soft exhale as if approving of the care being given. Lila glances at Noah. Where exactly did you find him? Noah meets her eyes. In an old shed up the ridge. Someone placed him there, wrapped in that flannel. Lila touches the cloth with a thoughtful hand. Then there is more to this story, she murmurs. More than we can see right now. Noah feels it too, that quiet truth rising again between them, steady and alive. And Ember, still sitting at the door, watches them with the calm certainty of a guide who knows the journey is only beginning. Dr. Lila Carter continues her gentle work, her movements steady and precise as she warms the small puppy with a soft towel fresh from the dryer. The hum of the clinic's heating vents fills the quiet room, creating a cocoon of warmth around them. Noah stands nearby, unsure if he should sit or help or simply witness the moment that feels heavier than its simplicity suggests. Ember remains in her place at the doorway, still as carved stone, her amber eyes following every shift of Noah's hands and Lila's care. She seems to understand that silence is its own form of protection. Here. The puppy releases a tiny sigh as Lila places him onto the warm blanket on the examination table. His small paws stretch just a little, as if reminding the world that life, even fragile life, can still reach outward. Noah finds himself leaning closer without realizing it, drawn in by the quiet resilience of the little creature. He is responding well, Lila says, her voice low, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the soft rhythm of the puppy's breaths. He is stronger than he looks. Noah nods, unable to pull his eyes away. Do you think someone was caring for him before? Lila studies the flannel cloth thoughtfully. This blanket is not old enough to be forgotten. It was wrapped with intention. She gently folds a corner of the fabric, revealing stitching along the edge. Look at this. These initials were sewn by hand. Noah leans in. The small embroidered letters read A.R. Lila brushes her thumb across the stitching. Whoever placed him in that shed wanted him to survive. They just could not stay. Ember shifts slightly, her gaze lowering to the initials as if she too recognizes the importance of the tiny marks. Noah feels a quiet tug in his chest. Someone out there made a choice rooted in care, or desperation, or both, and that choice brought them here. The truth is not loud. It is stitched in thread and carried in paws. Lila steps away to prepare a small formula mixture, and Noah lets his hand rest gently on the edge of the blanket near the puppy's side. The warmth radiating from the little body feels like a spark against his skin. A reminder that even in forgotten places, life holds on. Ember walks forward at last, her steps soft against the tile floor. She sits beside Noah, pressing her shoulder lightly against his leg. He glances down and meets her gaze, feeling an echo of understanding pass between them. "You knew," he whispers, not expecting an answer. Ember tilts her head, breathing steadily, her eyes reflecting a gentle certainty. Lila returns with a small bottle, feeding the puppy with careful patience. The little one accepts the nourishment eagerly, tiny paws flexing with each swallow. "There is spirit in him," Lila murmurs. "He is fighting to stay." Noah watches the puppy's determination and feels something in himself resonate, something he had not noticed in a long time. A quiet, steady pull toward purpose. Lila glances at Noah with a thoughtful look. "When you found him, was Ember acting unusual?" Noah nods slowly. "She came to find me. Led me straight to the shed." Lila's expression softens with a quiet understanding that goes deeper than words. "Then this was not an accident," she says. "Some truths travel on their own paths, Noah. Sometimes they even walk on four paws." Ember lowers her head slightly, as if acknowledging the truth of it. The room grows still again, the warmth, the breath, the gentle light all holding the moment carefully. Whatever brought them together is not finished. It is only beginning. Dr. Lila Carter keeps her focus on the small puppy as the bottle grows lighter in her hand, each tiny swallow a quiet promise that the little one is fighting to stay in the world. Ember stands only a few feet away now, her nose lifted slightly, her breathing slow and steady, as if she is lending her calm to the fragile heartbeat on the table. The room is wrapped in a soft warmth from the overhead lamp, a golden glow resting across the towel and the small rise and fall of the puppy's chest. Noah watches every detail, his arms loose at his sides, but his heart pulled into a tight and quiet awareness. Something about this moment feels suspended, like time is giving them space to understand what they could not see before. Lila sets the now empty bottle on the counter and gently wipes a small drop of formula from the puppy's chin. "He is doing better than I expected," she says softly. "Still exhausted, but he has life in him." Noah nods, but his eyes drift toward the embroidered initials on the flannel cloth. A.R. The thread glimmers faintly under the lamp. "Any idea who those initials might belong to?" he asks, though he already knows the town is small enough that people often know one another. Lila rests her hands on the table, thinking. "There are a few families around here with those initials, but only one who recently had a litter of puppies." She pauses, measuring her words. "Amelia Rhodes. Evan's granddaughter." Noah feels a faint shift inside him, a soft click as pieces begin aligning. "Evan mentioned nothing," he says quietly. "He may not know," Lila replies. "Amelia left a few days ago to stay with a friend in another town. She has been going through a difficult time. Sometimes people make choices they cannot fully explain." Ember lowers her head, ears angled back slightly, as if she feels the quiet ache inside Lila's words. The puppy lets out a tiny sound, soft and tremulous, reminding them all that the truth is not an idea but a life lying right in front of them. Lila lifts the puppy again, wrapping him in a warmed blanket and pressing him gently against her chest. "He needs rest," she murmurs. "A few hours of warmth and stillness. Then we will see how strong he becomes." Noah watches as she carries the small bundle to a cushioned crate near the wall. She sets the puppy inside with deliberate care, tucking the blanket around him so the warmth will not slip away. Ember steps closer and sits beside the crate, her gaze steady, as if she has taken an unspoken oath to stand guard. Noah feels something in his chest loosen as he watches them, a slow uncoiling of a weight he did not know he carried. The room falls into a hush, broken only by the soft hum of the heating vent and the gentle breaths of the puppy. Lila turns back to Noah, her expression thoughtful. "Whatever led Ember to that shed," she says, "it was not chance. She knew something was there. Something that needed you. Noah glances at Ember, who meets his gaze with a quiet and unwavering certainty. Lila continues, her voice soft but firm. Some truths do not reveal themselves loudly. They whisper. They wait. And they find the people who will listen. Noah lets her words settle in the stillness, feeling them land with a weight that feels both gentle and profound. The puppy, now resting, lets out one soft exhale, the kind that ripples through the quiet like a signal. Ember shifts her posture slightly, ears lifting. Noah watches the small rise and fall of the blanket in the crate. The truth, fragile but alive, is breathing again. And they are not alone in hearing it. The soft glow from the overhead lamp settles gently over the small crate, turning the edges of the blanket into muted gold as the puppy sleeps in a steady rhythm that was impossible just an hour ago. Ember remains beside the crate, her quiet posture forming a protective curve around the fragile life that seems to draw strength simply from her nearness. Noah watches her for a moment, struck by how still she becomes when she is guarding something that matters. Her breathing matches the puppy's, slow and even, as if she is syncing her heartbeat to remind him he is not alone. Dr. Lila Carter steps out briefly to gather supplies, leaving Noah in the warm hush of the examination room. He walks to the small window overlooking Main Street. Morning has settled fully over the town now. Cars roll slowly past the storefronts. A few people walk with coffee cups in hand. Life continues with the kind of quiet normalcy that feels foreign compared to the stillness in the room behind him. He turns back toward the crate. The puppy shifts slightly, a tiny sound escaping as if answering some dream. Ember responds immediately, lowering her head until her nose touches the edge of the crate. The gesture is so tender, so deliberate, that Noah feels something in his chest bend. "You were listening long before I was," he says softly to her. Ember lifts her eyes to him, the golden flecks in them reflecting the warmth of the lamp. There is no pride in her look, no demand for praise. Only a simple truth: she heard a call he did not. Lila returns with a small notebook and a gentle smile. "He is holding steady," she says. "If he can make it through the next few hours like this, he will have a real chance." Noah nods, letting the words settle over him like a soft blanket. A real chance. He glances at the initials again stitched into the flannel. A.R. Amelia Rhodes. He wonders what led her to leave the puppy in that old shed. The thought carries a quiet ache, but not a harsh one. It feels more like a whisper unfinished. Lila sees the direction of his gaze. "I will call Evan later," she says. "He deserves to know. And maybe he can help us reach Amelia." Noah nods but does not speak. Something tells him that this truth will unfold on its own time, the same way Ember followed the thread of breath through the woods. Lila kneels beside the crate again, checking the puppy's temperature with a gentle touch. Her brow softens. "He is warmer," she says. Noah steps closer, noticing the slight lift of the puppy's paws as he settles deeper into the blanket. It is small, almost unnoticeable, but full of promise. Ember gives a quiet sigh of relief. Noah senses the moment shifting, the air loosening its tension as if the clinic itself is exhales with them. The puppy's next breath comes steadier, stronger. Then his tiny nose twitches. His eyelids flutter for a second, then rest again. Lila smiles. "There it is," she whispers. "A sign he wants to stay." Noah feels the truth of it ripple through the room, gentle but undeniable. In the quiet warmth, surrounded by care and loyalty, the fragile life they found in the shadows begins to reclaim its place in the world. And in that moment, without a sound, hope breathes a little louder. The gentle hum of the clinic settles into a soft rhythm as the minutes drift by, each one carrying the quiet weight of possibility. The puppy sleeps peacefully in the crate, his small breaths no longer fragile but steady, like a faint drum tapping against the stillness. Ember has not moved from her place beside him. She rests with her paws stretched forward, her body angled protectively, her eyes half closed yet alert to every sound the tiny life makes. Noah watches her and feels a warmth inside him that has nothing to do with the overhead lamp. It is something older, something that reminds him of days when instinct mattered more than language, when trust was built not with words but with presence. Dr. Lila Carter finishes jotting notes in her small notebook, then steps back with a satisfied breath. "He is stabilizing well," she says. "If he continues like this, he will gain enough strength to feed on his own by afternoon." Noah nods, his gaze drifting back to the initials on the flannel cloth folded neatly beside the crate. A.R. Amelia Rhodes. There is a story behind those two small letters, a thread woven through fear or love or both, leading from that shed to this room. "Do you think Amelia meant to come back for him?" Noah asks quietly. Lila leans against the counter, thinking. It is possible. She has been carrying a lot on her shoulders. Sometimes people make decisions in the moment that they regret as soon as they walk away. Ember lifts her head slightly, sensing the shift in tone. Her ears tilt forward, soft and attentive. Lila continues, her voice gentle. Or she may have believed the shed would keep him warm until she could return. Hope can make people believe the world is kinder than it is. Noah understands that feeling too well. There were moments in his past where hope had been his only compass, a quiet guide when nothing else made sense. He steps closer to the crate, watching the puppy's small nose twitch as he dreams. Whatever happened, he says, she cared enough to wrap him. That means something. Lila nods, her eyes warm with agreement. It does. The room falls into a peaceful hush again, broken only by the soft breaths of the sleeping puppy. The sunlight outside shifts, spilling across the window like a slow-moving river of gold. Dust floats lazily in the beam, turning the air into something almost sacred. Noah feels the weight of the morning settle gently across his shoulders rather than pressing down. It is as if the world is giving him permission to breathe with the same quiet steadiness the puppy now shows. Ember stands and stretches, then moves a little closer to Noah. She nudges his hand with her nose, urging him to acknowledge her presence. He rests his palm on her head, feeling the warmth of her fur. You did well, he whispers. Ember closes her eyes for a moment, accepting the simple truth of his words. Lila watches them with a soft expression. You know, she says, I have seen many animals bond with people. But whatever is happening between you and Ember, it is different. It is as if she chose you long before you met. Noah looks at Ember again, and for a breath he feels something shift inside him, something that feels like trust, like connection, like a door opening quietly somewhere deep within. Ember lowers her head and rests it lightly against his leg, a gesture of calm acceptance. In the crate, the puppy lets out a soft, contented sigh, as if echoing the peace that has settled over the room. And in that tender quiet, surrounded by warmth and loyalty, Noah senses the beginning of something he cannot yet name, something alive, something hopeful, something quietly true. The warmth in the clinic settles into a deeper calm as midday light filters through the window, soft and unhurried. It stretches across the floor in pale ribbons, touching Ember's fur with a golden sheen as she rests beside the crate. The puppy's breathing has grown steady, each rise and fall no longer a question but a quiet declaration that he is choosing to stay. Noah stands near the table, his shoulders no longer tense, his presence gentler than when he first walked through the clinic door. There is something in the air now, something softer, something that feels like a beginning shaped by silence rather than grand gestures. Dr. Lila Carter finishes updating her notes and closes her notebook with a quiet tap. She watches the puppy with a thoughtful expression, the corners of her mouth curved into the faintest smile. He has strength, she says softly. More than I expected for such a little one. Another hour or so, and he will be strong enough for a second small feeding. Ember lifts her head at Lila's voice, ears angling forward, not out of concern but out of an instinctive readiness. Noah kneels down beside the German shepherd, resting one hand lightly on her shoulders. The warmth beneath his palm speaks of trust and quiet certainty. You found him before the cold took him, Noah murmurs. Ember leans into the touch, her eyes half closing as if the acknowledgement settles somewhere deep within her. Lila studies them both before speaking again. Noah, she says, her tone gentle yet anchored with meaning, there are people who search for purpose in grand moments. But sometimes purpose finds us in small breaths and quiet places. Noah looks up at her, understanding flickering behind his eyes. I did not expect any of this today. Lila smiles a little. The most important things rarely announce themselves before they arrive. Noah stands and steps toward the crate. The puppy shifts slightly in his small nest, letting out a soft, contented sound. His eyelids flutter but do not open, as if he is resting in the safety he has only just discovered. Noah lets his fingertips brush the edge of the blanket, careful not to disturb the tiny life beneath it. Do you think Amelia will want him back? He asks quietly. Lila considers the question, crossing her arms gently as she thinks. I believe Amelia was trying to protect him in the only way she felt. She could. But I also believe she may not have known how fragile he truly was. She pauses. Sometimes people do not realize how much help they need until someone else steps in. Ember shifts her weight and sits closer to Noah, her shoulder brushing his leg as if reinforcing Lila's words. The small contact feels grounding, steadying. Noah glances toward the embroidered initials again. A.R. A small detail carrying a larger truth. Lila's voice softens. Evan will come by soon. I reached him just before you returned from the window. Noah turns slightly. He is coming here. Lila nods. He sounded worried, but grateful. He asked if you were the one who found the puppy. I told him the truth, Ember found him. You followed. Ember lifts her head with quiet dignity, as if hearing her role named aloud confirms something she already knew. The clinic feels warmer than before, not from the heating vent, but from the sense that lives, human and animal, are gently weaving into one another in ways none of them expected. Noah exhales slowly, letting the air leave his chest in a calm, steady stream. Whatever comes next, he says quietly, almost to himself, we will meet it. Ember settles her head against his boot, peaceful and sure. The puppy stirs once more, letting out a tiny breath that seems to ripple softly across the room. And for a brief, breath-held moment, the entire clinic feels aligned with that small rhythm, as if hope itself has taken its place among them, quiet but fully awake. The soft hush inside the clinic deepens as early afternoon settles across the small town. Sunlight drifts lower through the window, warming the floor in a quiet amber glow. Ember stays close to Noah, her presence steady as a heartbeat, while the tiny puppy continues to rest in the cushioned crate, his breathing now strong enough to carry a small, hopeful rhythm. Dr. Lila Carter finishes checking his temperature once more, giving a subtle nod that speaks more than words. He is holding steady, she says softly. He is truly fighting. Noah lets out a breath he did not realize he was holding, the sound quiet and relieved. Ember responds by lifting her head and leaning gently against his leg, her eyes soft with understanding. The connection between them feels anchored now, deepened by everything they carried through the morning. Before Noah can speak, the front door of the clinic opens with a soft chime. Footsteps approach slowly, measured, carrying the weight of worry and hope intertwined. Evan Rhodes steps into the room, his weathered hands clasped in front of him, his expression lined with concern. He removes his hat out of instinctive respect, his eyes searching the room until they land on the small crate. Is that him? Evan's voice trembles slightly, not from fear but from the fragile balance of wanting answers and fearing them. Lila steps forward gently. He is safe now, Evan. He is resting. Evan's gaze shifts to Noah and then to Ember, who stands calmly beside him, her posture dignified. Lila told me you found him, Evan says quietly. Or rather, that she found him and brought you along. Noah nods, meeting the older man's eyes. Ember led me right to the shed. Evan lowers his gaze, exhaling slowly. Amelia loved those puppies. She was doing her best, but things have been hard for her lately. I feared she might make a choice like this, not out of neglect, but out of fear she could not do enough. Noah steps aside so Evan can approach the crate. The puppy shifts, lifting a tiny paw as if sensing a familiar presence nearby. Evan's face softens, the tension in his shoulders easing. He looks stronger, he whispers. Lila nods. He is. He has a chance now. Evan's eyes glisten slightly, though he blinks the emotion back with quiet dignity. Thank you, he says, looking from Lila to Noah, then down to Ember. I do not know how to repay any of you. Noah shakes his head gently. You do not need to. He just needed help. Evan reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small piece of folded fabric. He opens it carefully, revealing a matching flannel corner with the same embroidered initials. A.R. Amelia stitched these when she first brought the litter home, Evan explains softly. She wanted each one to carry a piece of her. Noah looks at the crate again, at the puppy wrapped in the flannel that bears its own story in every thread. Evan sets the small fabric piece beside the crate. She needs to know he is alive, he murmurs. And that someone listened when she could not stay. Ember lays her head gently against the crate's edge. A gesture that speaks without words. In the warm quiet of the clinic, surrounded by threads of care and hope, Noah feels something settle inside him, a truth simple and profound. Some lives find their way back through a whisper, a heartbeat, a loyal guide who refuses to walk past what others cannot hear. And in that stillness, the fragile becomes possible, the lost becomes found, and the smallest breath becomes a promise. Late afternoon settles gently over the clinic, painting the walls in a warm amber glow as the sun drifts toward the western ridge. The air has grown quieter, not from emptiness, but from a kind of peace that fills the room like a slow, steady breath. The puppy sleeps with his tiny paws curled beneath him, his breathing now confident, the fragile tremble replaced by a soft rhythm that promises tomorrow. Ember rests beside the crate, her body relaxed but her eyes watchful, as if she refuses to let the moment slip by without honoring the small miracle she helped uncover. Noah stands a few steps away, leaning lightly against the counter, his arms folded, not out of tension but out of quiet reflection. He watches the puppy, then Ember, and then the sunlight drifting across the floor. Something in him feels different, gently rearranged by the weight of the day. Evan Rhodes sits in a nearby chair, hat held loosely in his hands, his gaze resting on the tiny life in the crate. There is gratitude in his expression, but also something softer, something like grace. Amelia will need to hear this in person, Evan says quietly. She needs to know he made it. She needs to know someone cared enough to listen when she could not. Noah nods, understanding more than he says. We will tell her together, he replies. Evan offers a small smile, touched with relief. Thank you, son. Dr. Lila Carter finishes cleaning her instruments and turns toward them, her expression warm with gentle satisfaction. He will be strong, she says, glancing at the crate. He was given a second chance, and he accepted it. Ember lifts her head, as if acknowledging the truth in Lila's words. Her tail gives a slow, almost ceremonial sweep across the floor. Noah kneels beside her, resting his hand on her back. The warmth under his palm feels like a steady thread connecting them, something unspoken but real. You heard him, Noah murmurs. Long before anyone else could. Ember leans into his touch, her eyes soft with a knowing calm. She does not need praise. She simply needed to bring the truth into the light. Lila steps closer, lowering her voice as if sharing something sacred. Some animals carry a sense for what others miss. Some follow instincts that come from a place we cannot measure. She glances at Noah. And some people are put exactly where they need to be. The room grows still again, wrapped in a kind of reverence. Noah slowly rises, his gaze drifting back to the crate. The puppy stirs, stretching his tiny paws before settling once more into the blanket. His breath makes the fabric rise in small, steady waves. A truth once hidden in a broken shed now breathes openly in the warm light of the clinic. And somehow, it feels as though the world itself has leaned a little closer to listen. Evan stands, slipping his hat back onto his head. "We will come back in the morning," he says with a grateful nod. Lila agrees, and Noah walks him to the door. When he returns to the room, the sunlight has shifted again, resting softly on Ember's face. She turns toward him, eyes glowing in the fading light. Noah kneels and rests his forehead gently against hers, a gesture born of quiet gratitude rather than ceremony. "You saved 2 lives today," he whispers. Ember breathes out slowly, her warm breath touching his cheek, almost like a blessing. The clinic holds the moment in gentle silence. A small puppy sleeps, a loyal shepherd watches, and a Marine stands between them, changed not by orders or duty, but by a whisper of truth that breathed softly until someone finally heard it. And in that soft, unwavering quiet, something sacred is restored.